Admittedly, we are living in unprecedented times, time of tremendous global challenge, tremendous opportunities, but definitely tremendous challenges. Some think of it as a global crisis. And then for some, perhaps more than others, it is approaching crisis proportions at the personal level. Stress factors are up and the pressure is on. Different ones of us facing the various spin-offs of the pandemic in different ways. Wherever you find yourself on this continuum of anxiety and stress, pressure, at this very moment, I'd like to take a few moments to share with you on some practical things that you can implement and pursue to build our resilience, our ability to withstand the forces that are seeking to press us in and the various forces that we have to contend with to maintain stability and balance, to maintain our wits about us, to keep a level head, to stop ourselves from folding and yielding to the pressure. Resilience, the ability not only to withstand the pressure, but the ability also to bounce back, to keep on going, to keep on keeping on, as it were. So, resilience around times of crisis, maintaining our optimum mental health, keeping our cool, keeping it all together. Let's start with a most obvious one, and what I'd like to think of and offer to us as the foundation, the cornerstone. That is the element of focusing in a very deliberate way on our spiritual wellness, improving and increasing our spiritual groundedness. I'm not sure where you locate yourself with regard to matters of faith, but wherever you are, I think most of us will agree that there is a significant role that a sense of connection to the divine, a sense of our own vulnerability, our own weakness, and our own need for a source of strength, a source of objective reality that is outside of ourselves, the connection to a transcendent, a higher reality that we can confess, admit our own weaknesses, our own vulnerabilities to, has a significant place to role to play in resilience. Viktor Frankl, some of you may be familiar with that name, wrote quite a lot about this. Frankl himself, a survivor of the Hitler regime, the Nazi concentration camps, and he speaks about this idea of the role of hope that hope played in his own survival and the survival of many of the others who managed to survive the Holocaust. And he crystallizes it in his body of psychology that came to be known as logotherapy. The role of hope, the role of a belief in a higher power. And much research has subsequently gone into this. The role that faith has played in the survival, a higher survival rate of terminally ill cancer patients, for example. And so this is fairly well documented. The Bible speaks about the safety that is to be found in trusting in God. In times of crisis, times of calamity, Psalm 27 speaks about the safety that is to be found in trusting in God, even when there's natural upheavals in nature, and in times of war and in times of calamity. The safe haven that there is in trusting in God. And so I'm suggesting that in this time of crisis, your focus on prayer, your focus on worship, your focus on reading and meditating on the literatures of the faith is not a escape route that is fanciful, but a tried and tested foundation. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run in and they are safe. A strong tower, a place of refuge. Shall I remind you of perhaps the best known line from the shepherd's psalm of Psalm 23? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. He leads us beside the still waters, right? We are certainly in the valley of the shadow of death. Death is hovering, it's right there. Yeah, we're hearing the stories coming at us, and we are frightened, and rightly so. But even in the midst of that, we have faith that offers us hope even in the midst of death. And it is in times like these that those words need to leap from the pages and not just be black ink on white pages, but to become the living word. So boost in an intentional way your spiritual connection in these times to increase your resilience. Then another practical thing that I want to encourage you to do to boost your resilience is to think of starting a gratitude journal. A gratitude journal gives you the opportunity to focus on the things that you are thankful for, even in the midst of a crisis. What are the things that you can still be happy about? Start journaling them, start writing them, and you'll actually be surprised that there is so much that you can still be happy for, thankful for, even in the midst of a crisis. Try meditation, closely linked to the boosting of your spiritual foundation, your spiritual mooring, but we can pull it out, disaggregate it as a separate thrust in and of itself. The discipline of meditation, the art of trying to sharpen your focus and your mind. A great practice for improving your mental health because it allows you to acknowledge your thoughts and feelings as they come to you, but to gently release them as the thought finishes. Again, keeping it very practical. Some of these things we already know, but it is to be mindful enough to be intentional about them so that they have an effect in the time when we need them most. Saying positive affirmations. You can write some of your own, you can scour the internet and find powerful affirmations, positive affirmations. Write them down and say them, speak them over your life. One of the things you'll notice if you read through the Psalms, particularly the ones written by David, where he describes his agony of soul and the depression that he was facing and the hardships and the dangers that he was facing, feeling that death was ever so close, like in our time now. But then you see how very often it's like he speaks to himself. Positive affirmations, yeah? I will say to my soul, hope thou in the Lord, he says, for example. Positive affirmations have been proven to alleviate the symptoms of poor mental health and increase optimism. Say positive affirmations that are tailored to your needs and feelings. Make them specific. Make them yours. You can either say them out loud or in your head, whichever one you're most comfortable with. I mean, I, for one, prefer to say them out loud. There's a greater oomph and kick and bite to it, if you will. Keep connected. Now, of course, the protocol says social distancing. From day one, I've tried to offer a slight corrective that, look, physical distance, but not socially distant. The truth is, we were made for each other and we were made for community. And we certainly don't need to lose that right now. So in whatever ways are in keeping with maintaining and observing the protocols, keep connected. Talk with your connections, right? Your friends, your family, your confidants. Maintain those connections and talk with those connections. Times of crisis, the temptation is there, and the temptation is great to pull apart and to just get into your shell and to feel, oh, I'm all alone, which is hardly ever the truth. Talk to your connections. Again, of course, if it is very severe, you may need to literally talk to a mental health care professional. Part of the reality of our culture is that it is there's a bit of a taboo associated with that. But hey, it's you, it's your life. You know what's happening to you. If the pressure is there, if you suspect that you might be sinking into depression, or if you actually see other signs that really indicate that there is a serious mental health challenge coming on, don't be afraid, don't be shy. Make that step to talk to a mental health care professional. On the physical side, which is also a big part of our overall wellness, maintaining the physical wellness as part of boosting our resilience, basic exercise, simple and straightforward. Again, it's about finding creative ways to get those exercises in. YouTube has a ton load of exercise, follow along videos, make it exciting, find a way to just get it on, get your groove on. Eating healthy, again, that might be a big challenge for some of us. Requires some level of intentionality, requires some level of discipline. But one of the things that we recall emerged very early on was the whole matter of comorbidities. Persons with comorbidities, those with lifestyle diseases that made it much more difficult to battle the effects of the COVID. So eating healthy has to be a big part of an intentional process of boosting your resilience by focusing on your overall wellness. Sleep, often ignored, not enough attention often paid to it, but a significant part of our overall health and our overall ability to be productive, which in turn loops back into our overall sense of wellness. The amount of sleep that you get. Pay attention to it. Are you getting enough rest? Is lack of sleep impacting on your overall wellness? All right, so you might need to do an inventory there and make some changes. Again, if it is to happen, it's up to you. No one is going to do it for you. You are going to have to do it for yourself. All right, so focus on enough sleep, quantity, but also the quality of your sleep. And then lastly, we're going to look at your thought life. What's happening in your thoughts? A huge part. so much a big part of who we are that often we take for granted. The role that our thoughts play in our overall wellness. So how do you think healthy thoughts, particularly during difficult times, in times of crisis? Whenever you're going through a difficult time, it can be really easy to get caught up in unhealthy thinking. And these unhealthy thoughts make you feel even worse about the situation. So let's look at a couple examples of unhealthy thoughts and how we can turn those around so that our overall wellness or overall resilience can be boosted. And to do that, it's all about recognizing what I call the thinking traps. The thinking traps. One of the most important ways to think healthy thoughts is to recognize the thinking traps. These are unhealthy ways of thinking that are quite common whenever we feel sad, angry, anxious, depressed, or stressed. Additionally, you can fall into thinking traps just whenever you are tired or even when you're not eating well. Again, remember we spoke about healthy eating, right? So here are a few of the most common thinking traps and examples of them. Overgeneralization. Are you guilty of overgeneralization? That's when you connect a negative situation to a constant cycle of bad things that happen, using words like always or never is a common sign of overgeneralization. For example, I wanted the last slice of pizza, but Hannah always takes it as usual. I never get the last slice of pizza. Overgeneralization. Do a thought inventory. See how often you tend to think like that. Decide to put a stop to. How about black and white thinking? Black and white thinking is when you see things as only being completely right or completely wrong, good or bad, perfect or terrible. People who think in black and white tend to see things as a complete failure or complete success with no middle ground. For example, I didn't go to the gym today. My exercise plan is now a failure. Really? Just because you missed going today, your entire plan is a failure? Of course, if you think that way, then what's going to happen? You're going to stop. The black and white thinking. And I'll give you one last example. Labeling. Labeling is when you only say negative things about yourself or others. Here's an example. I missed a question on an exam. I am stupid. Labeling yourself. The negative self-talk. The self-limiting beliefs. These fairly well-established scripts that are negative that we have about ourselves or about others. As a life coach, my primary area of training has been in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which looks at the neural pathways, the thought patterns in the brain that are like wires, how the brain is wired. And so rewiring the brain from these unhealthy thought patterns would be a part of the exercises that we do. What I've just shared with you dwells in the domain of increasing your awareness by doing a thought inventory, as I've just shared a couple of examples, helps you to identify what are these neural pathways that seem to be fairly permanent. Yours. Being aware of them helps you to know where the changes need to be made. So we've looked at a couple of things on the physical side. We spoke about the spiritual, and we've looked at a couple of pointers on the emotional side. But most importantly, I've tried to help you to look at you, the person in the mirror, the one who has the power to seize the reins, yes, to pull back, because while there are all these external forces, the virus and the media and the reports and all of that are coming at us, and the electricity bill going up, and the taxi fares and the bus fares going up, and the supermarket prices going up, and all of those things that are outside of our control. Yet there still remains this one truth. You still have the power of choice. You still have the power of control. And it still lies within you just to put a stop to the negative thoughts that are running wild in your mind, to the negative habits that are not boosting your resilience and are not helping your wellness. Some of them will involve us trusting ourselves to the care of others as we make our connections. Some of them will involve us saying, hey, I need help. I'm not okay, I need help. That might be the only step you need to take, to be able to say, I need help. But it's up to you. And where your strength fails, where my strength fails, the great news is that right where we started, that God is still in charge, and still present, and still there to help us when we come to the end of ourselves. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. You do your part and trust Him to do for you what you can't do for yourself. Bless you. Have a great year. Take care of you. Take care of each other. I want you to run well and to finish well. And I'll be cheering for you. God bless.